Welcome to the Healing Bitch podcast. I'm Jackie Ortez, a psychic medium that has a penchant for all things spiritual. During this time with me, we will explore the world of energy and how it affects us all. Each podcast will address a question submitted from my listeners that I feel I have the authority to answer. So get comfy, throw on your headphones, and let's see what happens. Hi, and welcome back to the Healing Bitch podcast. I am so jazzed about this episode that we have today because it is about a subject that I have had interest in so long, and it's a little bit racy. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a disclaimer. If you are under 18 or my mother, feel free to tune out now. So we today are going to be talking about sex and energy. Everyone's favorite subject, sex. It has always fascinated me, even since a young child. When I was about, this is new. If you're still listening, Mom, you do not know this. But when I was about 11 or 12, do you remember that show that was on Z100 called Love Lines? It had Adam Carolla and it was hosted by Dr. Drew. Maybe not 11 or 12, maybe 13. It was on at like 11 o'clock at night. I used to take a blank cassette tape, put it into my radio, turn the volume all the way down, and press record. And it would be like a 90-minute cassette tape. And just let it play all night long to record the show. And then the next morning, my little ass would walk to school and put that cassette tape in my Walkman and listen to Love Lines. And I thought it was like the best thing in the world. I was so fascinated. I also would acquire books like The Joy of Sex by Dr. Ruth, Sex for Dummies, and also the Sex Encyclopedia. And this was all in my early teen years that I was exploring all this. And it wasn't, I want to say it wasn't the typical way that you would think a teenager would be exploring sex as like, ooh, it's sex and it's dangerous and all that stuff. And it's, curiosity and feelings and all that. No, I was actually really, really interested in the aspect of human behavior around sex and the way that people acted when it came to sex. And I think that started with the show Love Lines because people would come on and they would ask questions about things that were happening in their life. They would talk about certain scenarios, about how they were acting with an ex-boyfriend, how they were acting in a relationship that they didn't feel they deserved. And it just, I don't know, it opens my world in a whole new way and a whole new way of looking at people. To the point that when I was 17, I sat my mom down and we were deciding what I was going to do after school because I graduated high school at 17 because I'm a summer baby. And I sat down and I told my mom, I think I want to be a sex therapist. And it didn't my mom acts a certain way where she's not shocked. She tries to control her reactions to me. And you have to think about this. She was very conservative at the time, Catholic religion, everything. And she simply said to me, she goes, I don't agree with what you want to do, but I will support you. But it kind of put a damper on it for me, to be honest, because the last thing you want is your parents not to agree with what you're doing. I mean, dependingly, I wanted her to agree. So I took a different route. And I went to school for TV and radio broadcasting. But this whole interest in sex and wanting to talk about sex has always been in me. So that is why I am so excited today to be talking about sex and energy. Because it's something that people really don't think about. Any words that I use in this podcast are adjectives. They are not judging. I am not judging your lifestyle. You do you, girl. You do whatever you feel is right for you. I am not judging you. I am just going to discuss some things. And the point of view that I'm probably going to discuss a lot of this is a heterosexual point of view, because that is my lifestyle and that's what I'm used to. But you can use this to apply to your life too. So let's get some things out of the way about sex and energy. So when people think about their bodies, they typically think about them as just physical beings, right? We think about this body that we can touch, but we're actually made out of 4 levels of bodies, 4 different layers. So we have our physical body, we have our mental body, we have our emotional body, and then we have our spiritual body on the outside. And these bodies make up your aura. Now, I know that empath has been a buzzword for the past few years. So the concept, if you're not familiar with it, of empath is that you hold energy from other people or from other situations, and you carry it with you. Carrying this energy with you can affect the way that you think, the way you act, the way you react to things. It can affect how your body feels, and basically every single function of you. It can add anxiety, depression, or it can give you like a boost of energy if it's like a really good energy that you're getting from somebody. So imagine that as an empath, you get energy from a space or a person by just being near them. And let's put this into a situation where you're intimate with somebody. When you're intimate with someone, you're basically receiving their energy and giving them your energy as well. In cases of a relationship that may not be that great, everyone knows a toxic relationship, or you've been in one, or even there are relationships where just the energy is not a match between the two of you. And let's go into that first before you go into the toxic energy. So when you first get into a relationship, you're usually pretty matched with the person depending on it. But your energies are matched, the sex is really good in the beginning. But then let's say you decide to start working on yourself and you start to heal your wounds from childhood or whatever's coming up. And your partner is not doing that. They're just happy with the way they are. They don't feel the need to heal. Nothing wrong with that. But what's likely to happen is that your energy is going to be going up and your energy is going to be cleaner and their energy is going to stay the same. And what this causes is an imbalance in energy. And having this imbalance in energy isn't the best when you're intimate, because you want someone that's on your energetic level, so you're not taking some of the stuff that they have that you don't want, and some of the things that they are dealing with, because what will happen is after you're intimate, you will not feel as good once you come down from the high of being with them and an orgasm, and they will feel better because they've expelled some of their energy to you and you've expelled some of your good energy to them. So that's one situation where it's a mismatch of energy and you're intimate with somebody. And again, there's nothing wrong with these people. There's nothing wrong with somebody that you're in a relationship and they feel like they don't need to necessarily do the work that you feel like you need to. It's just a mismatch. That's it. They're not good. They're not bad. It's like a neutral, and you just don't drive anymore. Now let's think about a toxic relationship, and we have all had them. I did not learn from my mistakes in my 20s and early 30s and mid 30s, and it ended there, thank God. But if you are a highly sensitive person or just a person with a caring nature, we've all been there where we have been in a relationship with somebody who's definitely not on our level from day one. Maybe they're, let's use a buzzword, a narcissist. Maybe they just don't believe in themselves. They're in a depression and If you are someone that's really, really caring, you're going to be drawn to them, and you're going to be drawn to their potential. So when you get into a relationship with them and you're intimate, you usually really do not feel good after the come down of the sex. And after a long period of time, what happens is your energy just keeps being depleted. But there is now like a tie between two of you. There's an energetic tie. So think about those relationships that you've seen, or maybe you have been in, that haven't been great. They've been toxic, but they keep coming back to each other. Or like, say the woman's toxic and the man's not. The man can't stay away from her because now there is that energetic tie to her. And also what happens too when you're intimate with somebody else is you can take on part of their karma. So even if you get out of the relationship, you're like, okay, this isn't for me, I really need to leave. That's why you feel them lingering for so long afterwards. It has nothing to do with actually them and actually missing them. It's the energy that is now stored in your sacral chakra from being intimate with them over and over and over again, and carrying their karma with you. So usually it is a good idea to not be with somebody for quite some time and be celibate for a while you get rid of that energy. But it's a serious thing when you sleep with somebody who does not have the same energy as you, or, I'm going to take that back. Not everybody has to have like the exact same energy as you, but it is very beneficial if they do and you sleep with them. But if you sleep with somebody that is really just, I don't want to say struggling in life, but just not, I'm going to say it again, not on your level in like a really, really obvious way, just be aware that you're going to have that soul tie. And this is something that a lot of people don't think about when they go into relationships and when they go into meeting people. Okay, so now that I bogged you down with talking about some stuff that may have bummed you out a little bit with sex and energy, we're going to move on to talking about some fun things about sex and energy. So the first thing is we're going to talk about manifesting using your sexual energy. This is called the O method. And as you probably guessed, O does stand for orgasm. This is a method where when you are having an orgasm, you basically just use that energy to manifest. This is a method that is best done on your own, not done with a partner. And it really does make sense because our energy in our sacral center, which is our lower abdomen, that's where we create babies, especially in women. And men hold their sperm around that area too, a little lower in, their testicles. But it's still in the same main area. So why wouldn't we be able to manifest with our sexual energy? So the way that you do this, and if you've seen a video on TikTok, it's actually very, very popular, and sexual magic is very popular right now. So the way you do this is, like I said before, you do not do this with the partner. You're going to do this while you're on your own. And when you're, after you set the mood or whatever you do to get there. So right before you start to have an orgasm, what you're going to do is you're going to start visualizing what you want to bring into this world and what you want to manifest. And just because of the act that we're doing, the manifestation doesn't have to be or have to do with love. It can be about anything. It can be about abundance, money, a new job, a house, whatever you want to bring in. So you're just going to, close your eyes and start to visualize very specifically what you want to bring into your world. And if you're not a super visual person, you can actually say it out loud as well while this is happening. And then you just, to finish, that is the Cliff's Notes of the O method. There isn't much else that goes into it. It's pretty easy. And, if you try it, you can leave it on a comment. as a comment on this episode afterwards, or again, you can email me or DM me at the Healing Bitch Podcast on Instagram. So after that, let's talk about a healing method that you can, or a healing session that you can go to if you're having any kind of, not just sexual problems, but if you're having any kind of, what's the word? You can work on your feminine energy with this. You can work on your masculine energy with this. You can work on your self-esteem. So I have myself went to a tantric healing session, and I did not go for the typical reason that I just mentioned, a reason for like sexual dysfunction. I actually went because I have always had a wound inside of me when it came to my feminine side. I have lived out of my masculine side for most of my life. And this is something that I want to discuss in the future with you guys. So I'm not going to go too into it, but I felt like I needed to get in touch with my feminine side. And I knew another healer that went to this woman in New York City for this tantric session. And it sounded like, all right, well, I'm up for anything and I try all different types of sessions. So what the hell? Let me go. Well, it turned out to be like 5 hours long. And it was wonderful. She took me through so many different things in those 5 hours. We did meditation. She picked up that I wasn't a grounded person, which at that point I wasn't. This was about like 4 years ago. I was like so airy-fairy. It wasn't even funny. I had such a problem with being grounded at the time, but she picked it up just by looking at me trying to meditate. We did approach the feminine side of me and the masculine side of me, the mother and the father side. And I really came out understanding myself so much more. And it was a very comfortable session. And I know that tantric healing, like I mentioned, is usually thought about for sexual healing mostly, but it can help you in so many different parts of your life because we need to achieve balance in all parts of our life. And if you're feminine and masculine, and I'm just using myself as an example, if your feminine and masculine side are too unbalanced, then everything else will become unbalanced. So I thought a tantric healing session was fantastic. I do not have a question for this week because this was off the cuff that I was doing this topic. But Mom, if you have listened to this podcast, I sort of deeply apologize. I mean, I'm 43. You gotta be realistic about this stuff, but it's also your fault that you listened. So, I'm putting that on you. Thank you so much for joining me again for another episode of the Healing Bitch Podcast, and I'll see you soon.